Welcome back to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Time now for the news from the left. And the news department over at Fox News continues to drift more and more liberal. Chris Wallace, Fox's chief political correspondent and host of Fox News Sunday, spoke last night to Stephen Colbert. Why on earth would you go on that show? The worst of the worst, talking about some of the left's favorite topics, including the 2020 election. Take a listen.
I have never seen this. I've been in Washington 40 years, so I've seen a lot of bad stuff. I think more of them have cynically decided because of the Trump base, because they don't want to get crosswise with the former president, they're going to say something they know is not true.
Wallace also hit on the January 6th riot at Capitol Hill.
January 6th was one of the worst days. I covered Congress for several years when I first came to Washington in 1978. And as I'm sitting there live watching it on television and seeing this mob coming to the cathedral of our democracy and sitting in the chair that the president of the Senate sits in and, running around the rotunda, I was sickened.
Only people that work in Washington have such a high and mighty respect for the Capitol, which is where all these fools work that spend all of our money and run around getting nothing done, by the way. And we at Newsmax obviously condemn the January 6th riot as well. But pandering to a left-wing clown who's not funny, like Stephen Colbert, a person who swears it was an actual insurrection of, by the way, unarmed people who none of which have been charged with insurrection, doing that is absolutely pitiful. Fox thinks they own the right and are now making a move to take the middle and eventually take the left. That's what's happening at Fox News. And we here at Newsmax will be here to take all the viewers that they abandon on their journey. We promise you that. Next up, big tech continuing their disgusting liberal crusade. Christopher Rufo, an investigative journalist, director of the Initiative on Critical Race Theory at the Manhattan Institute, a man we've had on this show many times, has been great, posted this on Twitter. Yesterday, Twitter support disappeared my verification badge, the little check mark. I've inserted my pronouns into my bio in hopes of having it restored, fingers crossed, being a little funny there. Rufo says they took away his blue check mark when he started reporting on critical race theory indoctrination for employees in big tech companies. So clearly that's the punishment by big tech, as they must always suppress opposing views because that's how big tech works. According to a message from Twitter support, they now say this account, which has more than 220,000 followers, was unverified because it was ever a mistake in the first place to verify him at all. That's their excuse. Utterly pathetic from Twitter and the pink-haired Marxists that run that pathetic site, which sadly I use all the time. But I hate it. But I got to use it. Next, Portland's mayor looking even more incompetent after refusing a police presence during a violent political skirmish last month. On August 22nd, a bloody street brawl between right-wing activists and self-described anti-fascist protesters erupted in northeast Portland's Parkrose neighborhood. You had people with bear spray and baseball bats, paintball guns firing at each other. The violence got nasty, got really bloody. It eventually moved to downtown Portland as the extremists all battled each other. Police finally intervening for the first time following an exchange of bullets in the area. That's when they let all this happen, and then finally gunfire erupts, and then they show up. Prior to the demonstration, the mayor, Ted Wheeler, who's just been so useless in that city, said cops wouldn't show up due to staffing shortages and a history of police increasing tension and also legal restrictions. Well, during a city council meeting yesterday, Wheeler took full responsibility. Take a listen.
But it is clear, based on the public outcry, on the media outcry, on the national front, that strategy was not the right strategy. I think we can all acknowledge that. I take full responsibility for it. I think we all acknowledge we want to do better.
We want to do better. Another liberal learns cops make streets safer. He'll probably forget that lesson by Monday, though. Finally, another liberal policy leaves an elderly woman and her 2 dogs dead. Sacramento police say a 51-year-old man sexually assaulted his 61-year-old neighbor in her home, then killed her and killed her 2 dogs before setting her home on fire. After stealing a car, Troy Davis, a parolee with a violent criminal past, was allowed to be released under California's zero bail policy. A bail hearing would have likely kept him in jail with his history, but he didn't have one. He just got out. California implemented the zero bail policy, a move that critics warned would inevitably lead to more crime, and it just cost a couple of dogs and a woman her life. But you know what? California is the utopia, right?
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.